Well, considering that we've pitched literally every possible character that 46 could be, we were bound to get one of them right eventually, right guys? I guess it was Gregory, because like I said, we pitched everyone. This is going to be kind of my first semi-debunked talk about thing, because this is going to be my first time with one of my theories. Was wrong with the question mark? Kind of. I think actually if you took out my conclusion that it was Charlie and just focus on what I was saying about 46, I think a lot of it still applies. This is kind of weird because it's kind of like everyone wins a little bit, but not really. Okay, firstly, let's cover what GGY does not confirm. It does not confirm Gregbot in the slightest. I feel like actually it even further deconfirms it, because they do acknowledge that Gregory has a nice family even though we never meet them. Which, yes, could be an implication that he doesn't actually have a family, maybe. But the fact that he had a family at some point is implied in Security Breach, and now that we know he's 46, all of the things about 46 apply to him. And the fact that 46 had a good family and that something happened to them is really weird if he's a robot. Especially if he's a Silver Eye style robot, because those robots don't change age if it's the same physical robot. They swap out for other robots that represent different ages. So if the lore is this is a crying child's robot that was found or adopted, I think they would notice the fact that they found a 12-year-old that's been 12 ever since. So here's a bit of a dark lore revelation this all led me to. They specifically phrase it as Gregory had good parents, and that they're not accounted for now. Because if it was, oh, we couldn't find your parents, we don't have anything on your parents, that would be a separate story. But the specific fact that 46 is lying about having some family now and had, in truth, good parents makes me wonder, did Glitchtrap make Gregory kill his own parents and that's why he seems to be homeless or have nowhere to go at the end of the escape ending? Because, I mean, that really could be what we're implying here. Also, every single thing about GGY does match the games, which is not usual. The Silver Eyes books have like characters with the same name, so that's not the first time this would happen if it was Gregory, but it was the Tales of the Pizzaplex version of Gregory. But this is every detail is correct, which is unusual. In the novels, like both the real Charlie that dies and Charlie Bot both don't match game Charlie in subtle ways. Charlie in the Silver Eyes dies at age 3, whereas Charlie in the games, that is not a 3-year-old. I'm sorry. Gregory in GGY is a 12-year-old or very close to 12. There's no reason he wouldn't be roughly Tony's age because they're in the same grade. He's shorter than average for his height. And Security Breach makes a big deal about how Gregory's too short to ride the Roxy ride. He also has brown hair, just like Gregory. One interesting observation is Dr. Rabbit's listed as being occasionally way more philosophical than he should be for his age. Like, they make a big point that Tony's sometimes surprised by how much smarter he can be out of nowhere. At the end of the story, Tony starts getting too close to the secrets of GGY, and out of nowhere, with no kind of build-up, Greg/Dr. Rabbit's like, hey, I've got some friends at the Pizzaplex I need you to meet. I need to take you there. And remember, Tony's almost figured out who GGY is at this point. And he is really forceful in a way that he isn't really usually throughout the story. He tampers with Tony's story about figuring out who GGY is for their school project. I feel like this all reads as him being possessed by Glitchtrap, because another thing that knocks against Robot Kids is for this GGY Gregory to be the Security Breach one implies a massive event happens between these stories that allows him to be a completely different character in the events of Security Breach. Because attitude-wise, he's not the same. That is the one key difference between Tales' version of Gregory and the game's version. This one is way too smart. And also way too competent. But Gregory doesn't have stuff like a hacked play pass or anything like that. He is very much limited by, like, oh, I'm a kid in this place. I don't know what's going on. I barely know the animatronics. Whereas the GGY Gregory is very aware of what's going on. So I feel like this fits more with how Vanessa kind of goes in and out of possession, and that's what's going on. Like, Gregory gets freed from Afton's control in the same way Vanessa is. So I think the kind of story we're building towards is some unseen event before Security Breach happens allows Gregory to break free. And I'm talking like days before Security Breach happens, or maybe the day of Security Breach. Another important detail is that GGY has near complete control over Glamrock Freddy. In fact, he specifically makes him more uncanny and unnerving to follow Tony and keep track of who's looking for him. By the way, that's a thing that happens in 46's tapes. And also the technicians are like, that's really weird. Who's this guy who has all the high scores on the arcades? Just kind of like the 46 tapes, which are different technicians still. But I thought it'd be worth pointing out that employees are paying attention to GGY. So what I think is happening with Glamrock Freddy, based on GGY, is that GGY hacks Freddy to make him his kind of servant to work for him. And during those courses, maybe working with Vanessa, maybe something else, we don't really know. He was brought to Afton. That was kind of when he was hacked and manipulated and all that. And on stage, he sees 46/GGY/Gregory, and that triggers the system reset because GGY is an enemy to the Pizzaplex. He's hacking these robots. He's making them uncanny. He's wrecking things internally. It is a security breach, and that causes Freddy to crash. He's rebooted in safe mode to help him resist Afton's control. I don't know if he's possessed or what, but that is worth happening. They could explain it in a non-possessed route. But I'm pretty indifferent to the whole possession thing, to be honest. And now that Gregory's free from Afton's control and trying to get out of the Pizzaplex, Vanessa, as kind of maybe a sleeper agent or something, or maybe she was always active, who knows, is kind of reactivated and repurposed to chase down Gregory. I think it could also explain why she doesn't really seem to know who Gregory is, but then also does almost out of nowhere, seemingly. I also think that GGY implies it is kind of a sleeper agent system where there is complete activity from them when they're not at all aware they're possessed. And then Afton can control both their normal body out of nowhere and their possessed body. So Dr. Rabbit /46/GGY is the Vanny counterpart for Gregory when he is in complete control under Afton. But Afton can still control Gregory in his normal school life, but he can also just let Gregory be a kid. That is kind of how I think we're handling it, because that explains a lot about Vanessa's character. Because there is this kind of inconsistent thing where sometimes as Vanessa, she says stuff where she's clearly possessed by Afton. But at the same time, she also talks very casually in other moments. So it's like, is Afton saying that? Is she even aware of what's going on? I really think at this point we're completely past the point of robot kids feeling like a just explanation. I know MatPat's probably going to talk about this in part 4 and make this seem really compelling. You have to argue that A, Afton can cheat life and death to a minimal extent in this continuity, and that prior to being springtrapped, because there's no point in time where I see him making robot kids after he's springtrapped, he manages to make a perfect replica of his son that has a completely different personality, that he hacks to brainwash or control, who breaks free and tries to run and doesn't know anything about what's going on when he prior did know what's going on, and runs off and all that, and befriends a goddamn bear to escape. That is the weird-ass narrative you have to spin. And there's no generational robot stuff, so that's connection's gone. Afton can't make robot kids in the Silver Eyes, so that's, you have to cheat and say, oh, in this continuity he can. And also, there's no, like, stealing of the robots, which is the other big thing in Silver Eyes for William. So that parallel's gone. So unless you're arguing that, like, Henry made Gregory, and then William stole that, that's also really weird, because then again, it's not the right generation for it to work. I mean, the whole CEO being Elizabeth thing also seems to be a bust from what I haven't read enough stories, but I think there's the reveal that he's a guy named Mr. Burroughs or something like that. So that connection's a bust, so you don't have Oops All Elizabeth. With GGY's story, I really don't see how you get Gregory being a robot. He has to have, like, the most absurd robot amnesia, even beyond what Charlie... Because Charlie still thinks she's Charlie in the books. He still has all of the life of Charlie, just with, like, gray spots missing. But now, with how the story's presented, I just don't see it. We also have context now for when the Pizzaplex opens and how old it is. Tony says when he is looking through the list of counselors that he should only look through the recent list from the past couple of years because that's how long the Pizzaplex has been open. So now we have this number of roughly 3 years. We're in the 3rd year and it's been open for the past 2 years. Since our only number for the Pizzaplex is 2035, typically in FNaF you're kind of just given one date and that's just kind of the date of the game. AR kind of did that for FNaF 1, where it made this big deal about 1993. FNaF 2 gave us the 1987 date. FNaF 4 gives us the 1983 date. And as you say, expected for us to know, those are the dates of those games. FNaF 3 implies the 2023 date. FNaF 6 gives us HRY 223 for Henry 2023. So our timescale now is that since Help Wanted happens before the Pizzaplex opens, because we can see it being built in the distance, which in-game I'm assuming is like an advertisement of, look out for the Pizzaplex that's going to be opening around the corner. Help Wanted has to be 2031 then, if we're aiming for 2035. Because it is a year before the Pizzaplex opens, presumably, or maybe 2032 if it's the same year as it opens. Because that is when the Pizzaplex has to open. So we have 2032, Pizzaplex opens, and by the time Security Breach happens, years pass to 2035. This gives us almost a near complete timeline. FNaF 4 in 1983, FNaF 2 in 1987, FNaF 1 in 1992 or 1993, FNaF 3 in 2023, along with FNaF 6, with UCN in kind of no man's land between the games, and Help Wanted in 2031. I feel like we have a lot of the lore kind of figured out now. I think the biggest thing that bugged me when people were talking about the leak of GGY is, this changes everything. Security Breach was wrong. The books are the way forward. I'm not sure if that's what I meant to convey, and I was like, okay, if it's actually this important, I want to read it for myself without knowing what the hell is going on. And I can say it's not as batshit as people make it out to be. I was really preparing for Gregory to do the degloving joke I made about where he like rips off his hand, or like Tony punches him and it rips out an eye and it reveals like a socket or whatever. And it's like, oh, mechanical parts below. What the hell? Nothing like that happens. That's not what this story's about. I mean, honestly, I think it really just is that Gregory's possessed. There's only one error in Security Breach that this causes, which is every single translation refers to 46 as female. The English dub is one of the few translations that does not give them any pronouns. If you think about it, if you were translation team, you don't know the actual lore, you're just looking at the scripts, 46 wouldn't be listed in the scripts because they never talk. So if you're only looking at the therapist dialogue in a vacuum, and you only ever see the person acknowledged as Vanessa or you would assume Vanessa is you. You wouldn't know they're talking to two separate people, which would explain why they're only referred to as she. So yeah, Security Breach isn't wrong. This isn't some game timeline breaking revelation. It literally just is. Gregory is possessed by Afton, breaks free, runs off to the sunset. It also adds further weight to the princess endings or anything related to Vanessa dying or being freed, because that is what Gregory went through, so it would be a character arc for him to free someone else.
You ever write a video and record it and realize there's no ending to this video? I just kind of stopped talking. Anyways.
Bye.